Jill Stein's election recount efforts are nothing more than a disaster on numerous levels. It's a disaster for election integrity efforts. It's a disaster for the Green Party. It's a disaster for her personally. And finally, it's a disaster for the Democratic Party, and something that will only benefit the overall Republican Party in the future. It's short-term gains versus long-term gains. So short-term, you might think, well, she's pushing for election to verified results of the election, to have election integrity. But long-term, what's going to happen, and why this is a disaster, because of the way she's approached this, because of the way she's asked recounts in, those states are going to pass laws where they are going to make it impossible for someone like Jill Stein to ever request a recount again. Wisconsin and Michigan have Republican legislatures. They have Republican governors. Scott Walker of Wisconsin, the governor of Wisconsin, has already put forward the idea of blocking someone like Jill Stein from doing something again. And in Michigan, a Republican member of their legislature is already preparing a bill to prevent this from happening again. See, Jill Stein's argument that the Green Party has stood on the idea of election integrity is valuable. Obviously, they've done some valuable work. They did valuable work in Ohio when it was John Kerry versus Bush. But the problem is the way she's approached it has ensured that in those states, possibly in Florida, possibly in Pennsylvania, but in those states and in a lot of red states, that you are going to see more and more of these laws. And that is a monumental disaster for those kind of efforts. Now, I want to be very clear. Yes, I support Trump. In principle, what she's trying to do makes sense. And I agree with it. In principle. Let me be very clear. In principle, the idea of, okay, let's look at the optical scanners, let's look at the voting machines, let's check if everything's right. That makes sense. Those voting machines are old. I remember so many reports, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, all that, from supporters online of Donald Trump on election day, for instance, where they were trying to vote for Trump, right? And with video on this. And they would press a button on the voting machine and it would go for Hillary Clinton. And Jill Stein, her campaign manager, in the Facebook video where they originally announced this, her campaign manager also made similar claims that for Jill Stein voters, that in certain precincts in Pennsylvania, I believe, that none of their votes were counted. So there is something there. Those machines are old, they're faulty, and let's just say there's a good number of reasons why you want to doubt those. But the problem is this: in practicality, in reality, what she is doing is disastrous for herself. Her own vice presidential choice has come out against their effort. Her own VP choice has come out against it. Numerous Green Party officials have come out against it. Numerous Green Party voters have started slamming Jill Stein. And the reason is simple. Because she has made them appear partisan, because the way she's done it, the states she's asking recounts in, makes it seem as if she is trying to help Clinton. That's what it seems. Now, whether or not you want to believe Jill Stein, well, let's just say personally, I sat on this very channel and I made the argument to people that watch my channel, deep red states, deep blue states, vote Jill Stein, vote Gary Johnson. Clinton or Trump are going to win those states anyway. If you're in Tennessee or Alabama, vote for Gary Johnson or Jill Stein, whichever you prefer, but help them get over 5%. That's what I argued. I tried to convince people. I regret doing that. And I've met people who voted Jill Stein, met people online who are pretty goddamn furious over what she's doing. Because she is hurting herself, she's hurting the Green Party, she's hurting the reputation of the Green Party. If you want to pretend that, it's fine, no, it's not. This is politics. You gotta think more than just a moment. You gotta think long term. But she's not thinking. She's either an idiot or she's willfully ignorant. What did she expect would happen? That Clinton and Trump would not get involved? Of course Clinton got involved, and then that Balrog that is Trump woke up and started throwing grenades at everyone. This is going to go, the more she pushes this, the more they're going to push back. Republicans are not going to take this lying down. In worst case scenario, Ain't that the recount changes the results of the vote? That's unimaginable if that happens. Oh God, don't even try and think of that scenario. But what is more likely to happen, what is far more likely to happen, is that the recount effort basically prevents those states from having those electors verified. Now that's also very difficult to imagine, but it could happen. Unlikely, but still, which isn't a good. Combine that with why this hurts the Democratic Party. The reason this hurts the Democratic Party and actually will help the Republicans. So if you're someone who hates the Republicans, you shouldn't be backing this effort. Again, think long term. This is the problem the Democrats have as a political party. But let me explain this. Why is this hurting the Democratic Party? Because Jill Stein didn't raise over $6 million on her own. She didn't raise it with Green Party voters. She raised it by basically taking advantage of all the fear from all those Clinton voters. About 10% of Clinton voters don't accept the results of election. All those people that were protesting, rioting on the streets, the people with the rape Melania signs, just the peaceful protests, violent protests, violent riots, all that. All those people. The same kind of people that signed that petition, 4.5 million people signed the petition to change the results in the Electoral College. The people who are harassing electors in red states Trump want to change their votes. The people who are issuing legal challenges. She didn't get $6.5 million because of election integrity results. She got $6.5 million. And anyone who dismisses this is just flat out ignorant. She got that money from people who are trying to change the results of the election. Wake the fuck up as to what you're doing. Let me make this perfectly clear to anyone that's Democrat, anyone who's a liberal, anyone who's watching this in America and is a liberal. Don't be fucking stupid. I'm not talking this as a Trump supporter. Do you realize what you're doing? You are giving ammunition to the Republicans. The problem of the Democratic Party ain't the fucking fact they lost the presidency. It's the fact that they've been wiped out on a local level. State legislatures, House, Senate, governorships. Christ, the Republicans are one state away from a constitutional amendment. Do you fucking realize what you've done? And I'm angry, I'm furious because, although I support Trump, I sure as fuck don't support the Republican Party. In a one-party system where the Republicans gain control, where they can change the Constitution of the United States is a nightmare. So stop with the idiotic, narrow-minded, short-term changes and think long-term. Because you've got a far bigger problem than Donald Trump. You've got the problem where the Democratic Party can essentially be wiped out. You've got the problem where the Democrats pick Nancy fucking Pelosi again as House Minority Leader. How do you think that's gonna look? Like, it seems that liberals, progressives, Democrats, all that, it seems that the only thing they've been doing over the last couple of weeks is, let's slam Trump. No critical thinking, nothing to change their message, nothing to try and change Trump voters' opinion except, he's bad. Well, I've got a fucking message for you. The entire goddamn election, we heard Trump's bad. We heard Trump's a disaster. But we didn't hear no one that was on Trump's side, they didn't hear a goddamn solid message as to why Hillary was good. And no one that supports Trump is hearing any reason why they should change their support, why they should withdraw their support, and why they should regret their vote, with the exception of the argument that Trump's bad. Give people a goddamn reason. Policy ain't a good reason. Practical reasons why the Democrats will improve their lives, why the Democrats will fight for them. Because you might have the policy reasons. Your messaging sucks. The Democratic Party has been wiped out in the states, almost. And the Rust Belt, that's a Democratic stronghold. It's got Republican governors, Republican legislatures. Pennsylvania is moving in the direction of being controlled by Republicans. Then you've got Illinois. Illinois, one of the bluest blue states in the country. It's got a Republican governor. You've got far bigger issues than just the idea of Trump. You think Trump is the problem? I would say the problem is the Democrats have been obsessing on the idea of the presidency, that they're going to get wiped out. And in 2 years, specifically what this will do, in 2 years, in 2018, with the Senate races, What all of this is doing, the recount effort, the crying over the election results, the effort by a lot of people to actually change those election results with the Electoral College, with the recount and all of that is going to blow up in every Democrat's face. That's why there's plenty of Democrats who are kind of pissed off at Jill Stein because they know exactly how all this is going to play out. What's going to happen in 2 years is Trump, the Republicans, and all the candidates that will run on the Republican side will use the fact that Hillary Clinton rigged the primaries against Bernie Sanders. And when I say rigged, Arizona Secretary of State called it electoral fraud. New York Election Committee had people losing their jobs. California final results saw a 14% swing in favor of Bernie Sanders because there was such voter fraud in California that when they actually looked at the results and verified them and all that, a 14% swing. That's voter fraud. Voter suppression, people being pushed from the rolls. By the way, this is why no one believes the Democrats, and no one that is making that argument on a progressive side, on a liberal side, on the Democratic side has any goddamn credibility. You're trying to convince people that Russians hacked the election, when in reality, the only person where there is verifiable proof that they influence the results of any election is Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party. So yeah, that, by the way, the fact that you're latching onto that people are latching onto this conspiracy theory of the Russians, when the Department of Homeland Security, the Obama administration, the Clinton campaign, they said, look, we looked at the trends, we looked at the results, we didn't find any evidence of a hack. We didn't find any evidence of anyone influencing the election. They said it. You have no goddamn evidence except basically conspiracy theories. Meanwhile, Jill Stein is arguing in court that the election of Pennsylvania was illegal. Meanwhile, she's going to argue in court in Michigan that there was electoral fraud. She's going to do that. She is going to do that. Well, guess what Republicans are going to do? They're going to take all her statements. They're going to look at Democrats, and they're going to rightly slam the Democrats for the fact that, one, that Hillary Clinton called Trump's rigged election claims as a threat to democracy. She did, by the way. Two, they're going to use the fact she rigged the primaries. Three, they're going to use this recount effort to smear Democrats running in 2018. And the Democrats, they're going to defend 10 Senate seats in states Trump won. 10. And that's not counting Virginia. You think Tim Kaine has a future as a senator? Please, he'll be wiped out. He either loses the primaries, and if he doesn't lose the primaries, he will certainly lose to whoever Trump backs. If Trump shows up in Virginia. If Trump shows up in Virginia once, Tim Kaine loses that election. And the Democratic Party is even in deeper problems than that, because they've learned nothing. There's no critical thinking. There's no attempt at changing their message. There's no attempt at actually trying to craft a narrative or some messaging that would appeal to people. The only thing they're doing right now is continuing with the campaign message, oh, Trump's bad. Well, you have to give people something to vote for, not something to vote against. Trump gave people something to vote for. That's why they voted for him. Hillary gave something to... Hell, the only thing Hillary gave people something to vote for was the fact she was the first woman president. That's it. So, either the Democrats pull back, and Jill Stein stops this election recount thing because it's... her political career is effectively over. Or you can kiss goodbye to the Democratic Party. And I say this as a European. Do you know how many parties have done this kind of crap? I say this as a European. This entire argument, I make this as a European, because you might think, oh, we need to prevent Trump. No, you don't get it. Let me make you explain something. In Europe, we have had numerous referendums, not elections of officials, but numerous referendums where the people voted on something, and then those results were ignored. Flat out ignored. So much for democracy, right? Either because of technical issues or because or the referendum was so-called non-binding or something like that, right? Well, when you use that, or just the political class saying, yeah, we should follow the results of this referendum, but we won't. And they didn't, because there were people in Brussels, there was Germany, basically twisting their arms to invalidate those results. Well, when you do that, regardless of the reason, regardless of the circumstance, when you do that, you are destroying democracy. You are legitimately destroying democracy. That's why Greece has radical parties. That's why Austria is about to elect a guy as president who is from a party literally created by Nazi ministers. That's why Spain is unstable. That's why Italy is unstable. That's why the Netherlands is going to elect Geert Wilders. After they had a referendum, like a clear-cut example, Netherlands had a referendum on the issue of the European Union-Ukraine Association Agreement. And when the Dutch voters rejected that, their political leaders also said, yeah, we don't care. Guess what happens when political parties ignore the will of the people? Yeah. And with the Democrats, and if anyone's going to continue insisting on this, if they continue insisting on this, they're only going to hurt the Democratic Party further, and they're going to damage the Democratic Party in the minds of a lot of voters. Trump won 9% of Democratic voters. 9%. You need to get those people back. And you don't get them back with this shit. You don't get them back by basically running smear jobs on Trump. People won't care. 80% of the American people don't trust the fucking media. So you can step the fuck away. You can fight Trump on issues. That's irrelevant. But you can step the fuck away and you can strategize and think and fight for something. To anyone that supports Jill Stein's recount effort, I'm going to ask a simple question. Did anyone in the media, did any progressive that's smearing Trump, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, did anyone fight to get rid of Nancy Pelosi and elect Tim Ryan as House Minority Leader? The message that Pelosi's election is sending is a disastrous one. I've seen so many parties in Europe collapse doing the same goddamn thing the Democrats are doing right now. It's horrifying, really. You can support Trump, you can oppose Trump. You gotta understand, the collapse of the Democratic Party is horrifying. It's a prospect. It's something that, if it happens, would be an unmitigated disaster for the whole world. But that's the path they're on. And they might win the presidency once or twice, but if they get wiped out on a local level, if they get wiped on governorships, if they get wiped out in the House, continues getting wiped in the House, if they lose the Senate and the Republicans get 60 plus seats, which they can, by the way, they very well can, then American democracy is going to take a hit it won't recover from. And American democracy is the example the rest of the world follows. I mean, European Union as a whole is collapsing because parties did this kind of thing. Don't go down that fucking path. There's no road to recovery from that. That's why Spain, Italy, Greece, and Europe, as countries, as viable political entities, they're not going to recover from when they did stuff like this, when they changed results of elections because the politicians decided otherwise. And this just reeks of the same goddamn thing. So there's a warning in here. A warning I hope people learn. So spread that goddamn message. That recount effort needs to stop. And because, look, does anyone genuinely believe, anyone that has a clear level head, that Trump didn't win those states legitimately? Does anyone legitimately believe that? And if there was a hack, you think that's not a problem to democracy? Look, there are issues with those voting machines. No one's going to deny that. No one with a clear level head is going to deny that. I'm saying that you should not push this. Not now. Not with all the damage this election has done. Not with everything that's happened. Not now. Because it is dangerous. It is very dangerous. Far more so than anything people believe Trump could do. Cosine here on Serious Gaming. Signing out. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.